Hello students, this is Mr. Kleinhans. Today's objective is what are air masses? An air mass is an immense body of air that has definite characteristics that depend upon their geographic region of origin, called their source region. So wherever the air was stationary, it takes on the characteristics of that region. These are the types of characteristics that you can have for a air mass. They carry weather over the area in which it moves to. So the arrows show where the air mass is moving, and it brings those characteristics of temperature and moisture to those new areas. So an area where it's P for polar, will be cold. An area where it's T for tropical, it will be warm. Air masses are classified by temperature and moisture. Maritime, characterized by the symbol of a little lowercase m. An air mass that has developed over water, so it's going to be humid or moist. Or it can be a continental air mass, characterized by the symbol of a lowercase c. This is an air mass that is developed over land, so it will be dry. There will be very little moisture. Polar, by the capital P symbol. Polar comes from the poles, and the poles are going to be cold. Or it can be tropical. Tropical, with the symbol of an uppercase T, tropical will be warm because it's near the equator. So these are the general maps that you would see with the source regions and the directions that the air masses would be moving. M for maritime, P for polar. So formed over the ocean, maritime, so it'll be moist, and formed in the upper latitudes, so it'll be cold, P for polar. This is also P for polar, because it's towards the North Pole, but now it's over the land, so it'll be continental, meaning it will be dry. Maritime polar, same thing as the other side. And then continental polar, still going to be cold because it's in Canada, so polar for cold, and then continental means dry. Again, the letter C stands for continental, meaning dry. The letter P stands for polar, so it will be cold. Maritime tropical, M for maritime, meaning over the ocean, so it will be moist. T for tropical, so it will be warm. Continental tropical, C for continental, meaning it will be dry. T for tropical, so it will be warm. And then here over the Gulf of Mexico, the MT. M for maritime, very moist, thunderstorms. T for tropical, very warm. What you have here are the movement of air masses which are influenced by the jet stream. It has the greatest effect on our day-to-day temperature changes. If you see the blue polar jet stream, if it comes lower, it will bring all the cold air down with it. If the blue jet stream goes higher, and also the warm jet stream moves, it will bring the warm air up with it. So the jet stream just kind of helps bring around these different air masses as it circulates around the Earth. Now here's a short video about what is an air mass.
If you want to know about the weather, you really need to know about things called air masses. But what with it being see-through and all that, air is a pretty difficult thing to look at. So first of all, what exactly is an air mass? Well, an air mass is a name given to a large chunk of air that develops certain characteristics because of where it is on the planet. For example, Air that sits over North African deserts is very hot and dry. We call this type of air a tropical continental air mass because it's in the tropics and it sits over the continental land rather than over the sea. With the right weather patterns, this air can come all the way to Britain. As it moves north, it has to cross the Mediterranean Sea, Spain and France, but it will still keep some of the dry and hot characteristics it originally had. So, a tropical continental air mass brings us dry, warm and mostly clear skies. It might bring more than just good weather, as this sort of air mass can give spectacular sunsets and deposits fine red dust on the ground if it's picked up desert dust from the Sahara. Another easy one to spot is a polar continental air mass, and the name describes exactly what it is. This air mass is called polar because it comes from around the North Pole, and continental because it travels over the land rather than the sea. If this air mass makes it to the UK, it could have come from two different directions, either from the east, moving south from the pole across Siberia and Eastern Europe, or it can come from the northeast, travelling across Scandinavia before it gets to us. This air mass brings some of our coldest weather in the winter. At the end of 2010, the UK was in the grip of a polar continental air mass, and temperatures plummeted to a very chilly -18 degrees Celsius in Wales, the lowest on record for November. On their journey to us, often across the North Sea, these sorts of air masses can often pick up enough moisture to create really heavy snow showers on the east coast. In Northumberland, on the 30th of November 2010, one of these air masses dumped 40 centimetres of snow. 40 centimetres! But what about weather with a journey over water? Any air mass that travels over the sea will change dramatically on its journey to us. Polar maritime air arrives from Britain in the northwest. It starts over northern Canada or Greenland, where it's cold and usually pretty dry. However, its long journey over the Atlantic Ocean means the character of the air mass changes dramatically. As the maritime air mass travels across the warm sea, the air is heated and moistened from below. Warming causes the air to rise, and as the air rises, it cools, condensing moisture in the air, forming clouds. When this air mass arrives in the UK, we tend to get a mixture of sunshine, rain, hail, sleet, and even sometimes snow. As we are so familiar with this sort of mixed weather, it's not a surprise to find out that this is one of the most common air masses over the UK. When we hear forecasters predict sunshine and showers, it's probably because polar maritime air is on the way. We've looked at 3 of the 6 main types of air mass we experience in the UK. When an air mass originates far from us, it'll change on its journey to us. A continental air mass moving over land may alter only a little, whereas a maritime air mass alters massively as it interacts with the sea. Some air masses don't take a direct route to us and will alter as they move over warm and cold seas. The most severe weather we experience comes when cold, dry air from the north clashes with the warm, humid air from the tropical oceans to the south. We don't have enough time to look at every possible air mass in this film, but we've had a look at the basic types and how they change. If you want to learn more about air masses or anything to do with weather and climate, why not visit the Met Office website?
So this would be a worksheet that would be an example. Now you don't have this worksheet, you're just going to follow along here as I do it, and then you'll have to do an Airmass Google form, which I'll post on the Google Classroom, and you'll see that. This is going to be the Airmass form, where you have questions dealing with the reading. And there's also the video there again, you can watch it. And then the summary will have just a few multiple choice questions. But first, let's make sure you know how to do this. So you have the Airmass worksheet. And you have the letter for the location. And they want the temperature. Is it hot or cold? If it's hot, you will call it a tropical air mass. If it's cold, you will call it a polar air mass. If the moisture is dry or if the moisture is moist, meaning wet, well, if it's dry, it formed over land, so it will be the continental. If it formed over the ocean, it will be the maritime. And that will give you the actual air mass name. So letter A is here, and that would be more of a hot area. So it's going to be hot here, and then if it's going to be over the ocean, it's going to be moist. So if it's hot and moist, we will call it a T for tropical, and then M for maritime. Now letter B is going to be towards the North Pole, so that will be cold. And if it's over the land, it's going to be dry. So if it's cold and dry, it will be a continental and polar air mass. Now we're going to do Central Africa, letter E. Letter E will be over the land, so it's going to be dry. Dry means continental. And then if it's going to be pretty close to the equator, it's going to be warm, so that will be tropical. Another example would be letter F. Letter F right here, well, it's going to be over the ocean, so it's going to be maritime. But it's towards the North Pole, so it's going to be very polar. So that's how you characterize them. Then eventually the air masses will move, and that will cause the weather to change in the directions that they go. So right now you guys can go to the air masses Google form, where it gives you the information I just went over, a few questions, more information with a map, a few more questions, and then you can watch the video again, answer the question with the video, and here's a summary with just a couple of multiple choice questions. All right, glad to see you guys. Hope you have a good day.